Welcome everyone to BoomerWorks. My name is Shira Lotzar. Happy to be your co-host today. I am joined by my colleague, Michael Butera. We are two volunteers in this organization. I'm co-founder of BoomerWorks, and we are excited to have Danielle Hughes here. She is just a wealth of knowledge, and we're really excited to have her here today to talk about how to attract the right customer and repel the wrong one. And she'll be sharing with you a little bit about herself, and we're just super excited to have her. We're going to be meeting here until 6:45 Eastern. This is going to be an interactive presentation. Danielle has lots to share, but certainly we'd love interaction from the audience because we want to make this very applicable to you. So Danielle, you go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. And I will just say it is interactive within reason. I would prefer for you to stay on mute for the most part, but I will be asking questions. You can put things in the chat. And, Shira can always interrupt me with any questions, but there'll be also plenty of time at the end for questions. And I just want to make sure that I give you all the content that you are here to get. So we're going to talk about how to attract the right customers and repel the wrong ones. There we go. Okay. What do you do? So I'm sure all of you have been asked this question more times in your life than you can possibly count. And what do we normally say when somebody asks us what we do? We normally tell them our job title, right? Or, maybe the first sentence of like a job description, right? But, our job description is not who you are, right? That description was written for somebody who's not you, by somebody who probably doesn't even know the role, and doesn't take into account the opportunity for you to bring yourself into what you do. And, even if you have your own job company and you've given yourself your own title, chances are that title is not super descriptive, again, of the value that you bring, of who you are. And it just doesn't separate you from the pack. And this is really important, right? Because if you don't have a strong personal brand, if you're not sure kind of who you are and what you stand for and what you can deliver, you're just going to be stuck trying to find that career trajectory. And I know that everybody here is in their 4th, 5th, 9th, 100th career iteration. But this is a through line in everything that you do, right? If you're not clear on sort of what you bring to the table, you're just not going to have that longevity. You're not going to get noticed in your business or in any jobs that you're looking to apply to. And we're going to talk today about sort of how do you build that brand? What does that look like? And how is it individual to you? So I like to say that I am the self-proclaimed Chief Personality Officer, right? So in my instance, I have made my title actually part of what I do, which is helping people bring personality into their business. So I will just read a little bit of my bio. I've been called a wordsmith, a magician, a copywriter extraordinaire, a lifesaver, and a badass. 4 of these are accurate. Oh, who am I kidding? They're all accurate. And while I can't pull a rabbit out of my hat, I can hone your brand message, engage your audience, and deadlift your employees, but not at the same time. That's just irresponsible. And please note that I am available for office party tricks, and I do accept payment in bottles of Bordeaux, Barolo, Barbera, or any wine with any letter. So why is this my bio, right? Obviously, it's very fun. It's very whimsical, but I am trying to showcase to people that I am bringing more to the table than just the fact that I'm a copywriter or I do branding, right? I like to say that when somebody comes to you for a job, for your business, there's already an understanding of a little bit of what you do, of what your business does. Now they want to know who you are, right? What are you going to be like to work with? What is this relationship going to be like? Are you going to be fun to be on the phone with? Is it going to be difficult? Are you actually who you say you are, right? Are the words on the page a match for the person that's on the phone? And I just need people to understand too, that like, I was not always this. I was not always a business owner. I worked in corporate for probably the first 15 to 20 years of my career. I started out in marketing, in television, working for companies like ABC and Oxygen and Discovery. And then I was at a really small, like, word of mouth marketing agency. And looking back, what I realized was that I never 100% fit in to the corporate environment. I didn't know how to be a good corporate citizen. I didn't know how to toe the party line. But more importantly, I didn't know what I was good at enough to be able to advocate for myself. So what ended up happening is I took a job because I wanted the title and the money. And this job was not a good fit for me. They shouldn't have hired me. I shouldn't have accepted the job. And had I been more clear about what I wanted to do, and had they been more clear about the culture of the company, we probably wouldn't have hooked up to begin with. So when I talk about, kind of having this brand identity, the goal is for you to find where you fit, whether that's at an organization that you want to work for, or whether it's finding your fit with your clients. And so over the years of putting more of myself into my message, I have now figured out who I am, who I want to be, who my clients want me to be, and worked with these amazing companies that all come to me because they want to work with someone who is exactly like I am. I'm not hiding it. There's no secrets. They got on the phone and they know what to expect. So when we talk about branding, the most important thing to remember is that you are trying to be distinct and stand out, right? We all know that the world today we are inundated with messaging everywhere. 2,000 social platforms, news feeds, newsletters, television, streaming, right? How can you possibly cut through all of that, right? Our attention spans are getting super short or non-existent, right? And, there's this mistaken notion that nobody reads, but we read, right? Everybody here reads, but you're going to read something that resonates with you. Something that is speaking to your pain points, speaking to something that looks like it's interesting to you, that is talking directly to you, right? So we are looking for that connection. We are looking for that thing that's going to speak directly to us, right? We want content that's relatable, something that's maybe funny or pop culture related, something that looks like it was written by a person, right? Those are the things that tend to get us to kind of slow down and click. Yeah, you might have the clickbaity headlines, but the real things that you're going to actually read are things that speak to you, right? The reason you're all here and part of this community is because the message of BoomerWorks relates to where you are in your life.
So Danielle, can I interrupt for just a moment?
Yeah, of course.
Quick question, just a clarifying question for our audience. So especially when you're talking about humor, pop culture, and so forth, would that be determined by the type of audience that you're trying to reach, right? So, for example, millennials, maybe even Gen Xers might relate to this kind of a thing. If you're targeting, let's say, an older population, might the messaging change? Can you address that?
Sure. So this is about like who you are as a person. And yes, of course, always who your audience is, right? So depending on who you are trying to reach, your tone and your approach is going to be different. But the point is that it has to still be authentic to you, right? So, the message that I put out there, it actually like appeals to, I would say, millennials, Gen Xers, maybe a smidge of Gen Z, but like Gen Z is not really my audience. So I'm thinking about what I want to share and what's important to me. And chances are there's people around me in my demographic or in my age range that are going to respond to that.
Mhm.
So if you have a company or a business, yes, you need to understand your audience and what they're looking for. And, if they're a huge swath of age ranges, then you're focusing more on the pain point piece, right? What are these people struggling with? Because there's always a unifier, right? If you have a service or a product, there's a unifier of why somebody would come to you, and you have to address what that unifier is. So one of the things that is most valuable in business and is the most overlooked is this, right? So many of us get caught up in competition, in trying to be the next X, Y, and Z, and seeing what somebody else is doing. But at the end of the day, we can only be ourselves, right? There's nothing else that we can do to be anybody else. And the more that you kind of own who you are and lean into that, the more comfortable you'll feel, the more confident you'll feel, and the more people, again, that will be attracted to you because they will sense that genuine, authentic message that you are putting out there. And one way to kind of think about doing this is building what I call your personality brand. And I'm going to explain to you why I call it personality brand. But essentially, there's 3 components: authenticity, clarity, and for the sake of our acronym, which is ACE, extracurriculars, which is really like your hobbies or the things that you love to do, right? So the goal here is to ACE building your own personality brand. So let's talk about authenticity. So I'm sure most people on this call have heard of the term personal branding. And, this is a relatively new concept. I would say that this kind of came to the forefront when Instagram came out, like about 10 years ago, or whenever Instagram hit the scene. And it seemed like everybody needed to have a personal brand, meaning everybody had to share everything about themselves all of the time with everyone on the planet. And that's just not how things should be, right? Personal means private. So why are we sharing everything about ourselves with perfect strangers? But your personality is who you are, right? That's the thing that makes you uniquely you. And those are the things that other people notice on a day-to-day basis and are connecting to, right? So aspects of our personality are always, always on display. And we dial them up or dial them down depending on who we're talking to, right? So your conversation with your neighbor, they're going to get some aspect of your personality. Maybe you're talking to your mail carrier or your local barista, and then you talk to your friends or your family and they get your personality leveled up, right? So we are always shining a light on who we are. It's just how much of that do you want to show to people that you don't really know? And that's the beauty. And so when I talk about personality brand, it's like, what are the things about you that you are 100% willing to share with everyone? Because those are the things that light you up the most. So these could be your hobbies, your passions. It could be your culture. It could be the movies or the music you love. It could be your family. Things that you could talk somebody's ear off of, that you could just smile all day and talk about, right? Those are those connection points, right? Because chances are if you love something, somebody else loves it too. And that's your common bond, right? So when I talk about wine in my bio, that's on purpose because I love wine. And that's something that people can talk to me about, even if they don't like wine. I have people come to me and they say, oh, I see, I don't have a bottle of Bordeaux, but I do have this beer. And then we're off to the races. And now we have this common shared bond. And now it doesn't have to be such businessy content. We can talk like human beings. So we're trying to find ways to bring some of that into our bios and into our messaging to make it easy for people to start the conversation and already feel like there's a little bit of a connection with us.
And Danielle, if I could also chime in. So in addition to things that have to do with your personality, who you are, right, as a person, you may also want to, folks on the phone, on the call, may also want to consider your values, right? So, for example, my there's a quote that I use in one page of my website that is, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." And apparently, Roosevelt was quoted as saying that. And I say that because that, for me, right, is part of my core values, and it's something that I lead with, because when people work with me, it's something that they feel from me. So there
Right.
are lots of different ways to share who you are. It can be personality, it can be hobbies, it can be all of that, and it can be your values as well. Would you agree?
Yes and no, if I
Okay.
can play a little devil's advocate. Values are a hard thing to have somebody get excited about or share, right? So I think it's important for companies to have values and core values that they stand behind. But I think when it comes to like a human to human connection, it's not so easy to start a conversation based on a
Oh, I
quote.
see. You're talking about actual conversation. I was thinking about messaging in like your website.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have values, but I think you need a little bit more
Okay.
that would be my point. I think it's a start, but I would love to see something else, right? Just a little bit of
Got
something.
it. Got it.
And this is why, having a little bit of that is important, right? So I love this quote from James Clear. He's written the very popular book, Atomic Habits, right? There's this, again, back to the kind of competition thing. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, why would somebody work with me when there's thousands of other people who do the same thing, right? And it's not always about us being the best at something. It's about us being different. And that kind of difference makes us better than somebody else, right? Like, I'm not the best copywriter in the world. That's not a thing. I don't know who is. There's plenty of people that write better than I do, but I have a different style and a different way, which makes me better for certain people, right? And that's what we're looking for. We're trying to find those kind of rabid fans, rabid customers, rabid clients who just really love our differences. And especially, for people like myself and for everyone in this group who's been around the block a few times, a lot of times we conflate these two things and we think, oh, I can't show my personality in business, like that's not professional. So professional doesn't mean formal. It doesn't mean stuffy. It doesn't mean conservative. Professionalism and personality just means being friendly and warm and human. And I like to tell people, you're not professional if you, curse out a customer or don't show up on time for meetings consistently or don't deliver what you say you're going to deliver. That's unprofessional. Asking someone how their weekend was, putting a little bit of fun into your messaging, sharing a little bit of who you are, that's the personality piece. That's the connection piece. And it's really important to remember that those things do need to go together. So I'm going to give you some examples of things that can be your personality brand, because I know it's very abstract and obtuse to talk about it, but I'm going to show you some real examples of LinkedIn examples of how I've kind of built this for a bunch of different clients. So we're going to start with Dan. Dan used to work in corporate PR for about 30 years, and he decided to go out on his own and make his own small boutique PR firm, right? So the day that he decided to leave his old job, his teenage daughter came to him and said, "Dad, can you please stop wearing black socks?" And she bought him all of these fun, crazy socks. And when he was telling me the story, what do we know about kind of something crazy and bold and colorful? It stands out. What do we know about public relations? You're trying to stand out. You're trying to get noticed. So this concept of the socks became part of his brand. Oh, goddamn, sorry. I'm always having mouse issues, right? Helping clients grow their brand and their business by changing their socks, right? If your brand is drowning in a sea of sameness, maybe your approach to marketing and communications is just falling in line with what everyone else is doing. Prince Communications balances strategy and tactics, urgency and discipline, as well as brand risk management and a dose of what if we try this, all in the name of relentless success on behalf of our clients. We stopped wearing the same socks that everyone else is wearing a long time ago. That is, we don't believe in dusting off last year's plan and doing it all over again. The only thing we like to wash, rinse, and repeat is our socks. Our team brings decades of corporate agency, entrepreneurial, and political experience. Go ahead, ask us about our socks. So again, this idea that you're looking for someone in PR, who is going to be the memorable person? Every other person who just talks about getting noticed and media hits and whatever, or the socks guy. Now I'm going to show you Nancy. So Nancy is a graphic designer. So she is graphic design with a side of brisket and tostones. So I always say you don't have to know what brisket is. You don't have to know what tostones are. Now you want to know, right? So essentially, if you go to what Nancy's website, or if you have a conversation with her, you find out that she's Jewish, thus the brisket. Her husband is Cuban, thus the tostones, right? And cooking up graphic design, again, something fun, something memorable. It's a visual, right? Visuals are great for business because that's how our brain works. So now you have a visual of her like whipping something up in the kitchen, like she's whipping up a design. And again, like I believe good design is more than, well, just design. It's about a partner who understands what it's like to run a business, meet deadlines, and seamlessly integrate into your department or projects. Design is my obsession, along with cooking, tennis, and the beach. And the drive to keep innovating stems from my no-nonsense, process-driven approach to creative work with a heaping spoonful of fun. Right? So you can balance, right? No nonsense, process-driven, innovative, fun. Because again, we want to work with people that we want to have enjoyable conversations with. So she is showcasing, I'm going to get the work done. I've got the chops, but it's also going to be enjoyable, right? So it's this nice balance of the humanity. And again, who are you going to remember when you're looking for a graphic designer? Probably the tostones lady. And lastly, I'll show you Noelle. And this is her before, because I also love a good before and after. So you can kind of see the difference in something like this. So if we look at, her title, strategist, change leader, transformation and growth, process improvement, I call this jargon salad. It doesn't mean anything. It's a whole bunch of words. I have no idea what this woman does, right? She's not going to stand out at all. And then her bio starts out with a quote that's not even hers, right? It was once said, don't feel failure, fear being in the exact same place next year as you are today. I mean, I just don't even know what this means, right? She's led major systems improvements, like it's just a whole bunch of words, and there's nothing unique about her. However, now she's a rare breed who can both ideate and execute. She still has some of the jargon in there because for LinkedIn, you do want some keywords, right? But at the end, it's more than project management and this connoisseur of vinyl. Okay, right? Now I'm interested. What does that mean? I strongly believe there's a solution to every problem if you're willing to dig in and find it. Like searching for a deep cut or that special album in a record store, my work is a constant search for the next game changer, hidden gem, or overlooked opportunity that can dramatically change everything. So again, there's this visual, right? She's searching in the bins of a record store. So you can kind of see that somebody who does process improvement is searching for the ways to improve processes. Again, and it's relatable. Growing up a latchkey kid, right, where my Gen Xers at, I had to learn how to figure out, well, just about everything, right? So making it personal, like where does this ability to do her job come from? Oh, and even if you don't know, again, what a latchkey kid is, now it's something interesting that you want to ask, right? So then she can get into more of her background and her career. And then at the end, right, if you want to talk about process improvement, leadership, or strategy, I'd love to connect. Or we can just talk about one of my favorite things, vinyl. I'm currently on the hunt for every album listed on Rolling Stone's top 500. So more things, easy icebreaker, right? So many people are into music. Even if you don't collect records, you're not into vinyl. It makes her memorable. And it's just another way to start the conversation.
And Danielle, I like the fact that you had these examples, a couple of them were more kind of very whimsical, right? But then this third one had a little bit of whimsy, but had had a more serious and professional tone, which I'm calling that out because I believe that there are going to be some people on this call that might say, yeah, but I'm not this whimsical person. I'm more serious, I'm more subdued. What do I do? And I think your third example kind of spoke to that option.
Yeah, and she's like a very serious person, but like she has a passion, and that's the point, right? Is like her passion is vinyl, and we figured out a way to weave that in and make it relatable to what she actually does for her job, right? So I do think that there is like this lovely balance. So now we have a little bit of the interactive. I would love to know, and you guys can either quickly come off mute or you can throw some things in the chat. What's something about your personality or your hobbies that you can bring into your message? And I would say be specific, right? Don't just tell me cooking. What kind of cooking, right? Don't just tell me running or hiking. Like the idea is to get like a little bit more granular about the things that you love. So I would love to see kind of some of the things that people are really interested in.
You can feel those who want to chat, just feel free to come up voice and
or throw it in the chat either way. And I can't see everyone, so feel free.
Okay. Thanks. That was very interesting. This is Leanne. Hi, Danielle. Hello, everybody. I actually was just writing something down because that gave me an idea.
Oh,
and
go
I
on.
started writing, love to cook different foods, Mexican, Indian, Jamaican, Italian, and hamburgers. And similar to the mishmash of different types of foods and with different cultural backgrounds, I've approached a life of reinvention. That's kind of where I was going. That I'm a reinvention coach, and I've had jobs in a number of different professional sectors, and I can help my clients to be able to reinvent themselves, especially planning for retirement, etc.
And I think like the hamburger thing is kind of interesting to me, right? Because a hamburger is taking all of these things and putting them into one cohesive patty. And that's what you're doing with your clients is, right? You're taking their disparate backgrounds and putting them into something juicy and delicious that can be served up on a platter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that.
That's good for me.
Let's see. Kristen already hooked. Anyone else want to share something that they're thinking about?
I've always wondered how I could incorporate my passion for music. I mean, I've played guitar and drum for over 15 years. I've even traveled to Africa for that. And as a marketer, you know, that's my creative side, right? And that's also an outlet for me for like mental health purposes, right? If I'm stressed at work, I can unwind on my guitar. But I guess I've always been challenged with kind of sharing my story.
I mean, I think, you know, music is to me like, right, the guitar, it's all about finding the right chords. And that's probably what you do for your clients is you find the right chord to strike with their audience. That would be my first thing. But I also think there's something very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like you kind of try things with music, right? Like there's not a lot of like right with music, especially when you're jamming. You're just trying to play around until you find something that like really speaks to you. So I think there's a lot of that in marketing. It's like we're just playing around and then all of a sudden you find that thing and that's like the magic. Right. So I could see a lot that you could use with that. And then obviously like traveling to different countries and cultures, that's other ways of looking at a problem or other ways of looking at things, having a different level of understanding, different audience approach. I think there's a lot you could weave in there.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Yeah.
I have a blog. I publish a magazine about economics and conflicts. And a podcast where foremost interview people, Veterans International. Now I have I don't feel really good about this, but now since I'm starting to become my own
Boss.
retailer, and I
Uh-huh.
want to sell a product. I don't know if that's a total no-go, just to start to sell them a product, or just should I separate this?
Does this relate to what you're selling them, or is this a completely different thing?
It would be well, yeah, more or less. It's a health product, and but
I mean, I think, Francesca, I would focus more on something that you like, that you love to do, like something that is more personal to you, that is relatable to somebody else. Like, do you do anything for fun, or have any other sort of hobbies, anything that you do on the weekends, or?
it's even. I thought of selling books about write a vegan cookbook, or do sell this, but I'm so bad with cooking.
Well, but what do you like to do? Like, do you like to travel? Do you?
Yeah, I like to travel.
Okay, so maybe there's something more about that you can kind of put in that just speaks to, your love of travel or experiencing other cultures or countries or places, right? Like it doesn't have to be always about selling when we're talking about these sorts of things. We're just trying to make a connection with someone so that then we can sell to them, work with them, etc. Does that make sense?
Yes, I thought of that. I would feel kind of that let them down, or so I build it up on business and then build up my leads on personal stuff.
Yeah, make the connection first. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, those are some great ideas. Let's continue. Okay, and we're going backwards. Okay, so now we've got our authenticity piece, right? Now we have to focus on clarity. And I always like to say that you can't be confident in what you do if you're not clear, right? And this is clear in a bunch of different ways. So you have to know who you are. You have to know who your audience is. And most importantly, you have to know, like, what do they need, right? So what are you selling? What is your service? What is your product? Why would someone need this? And more importantly, what do you do for them? Like, what is the benefit that they're going to get from working with you, or from buying this product, or from using this service? And why this matters is that we get to control our message, right? I think a lot of us, especially as we get older, right? You've got a 9-page resume, right? We've done so many things, and it's like we get so attached to our babies. Every job we've ever had is so important, and everybody has to know about it. But at the end of the day, all of the things that got us here might be holding us back from getting where we want to go. So at this point, it's about thinking about, how do you portray yourself as you want to be? And I'm not saying that we're like lying, we're not making anything up, but we're getting rid of the roles that no longer serve us, and we're reframing what we do want people to focus on, right? So the things that you've done in your career that actually are going to help you moving forward are the things that we want to highlight. So, if you are trying to, let's say, be a career reinvention coach, right? So for Liana, she can basically say, I've had a gazillion jobs and I've reinvented myself so many times. Like, that is helpful for her, but maybe she doesn't have to list every job she's ever had to tell that story, right? If she's had 10 jobs, maybe 3 will do the job, and she could focus on those 3 and drop the rest of them, right? We have to kind of narrow ourselves down and get really clear on the person that we want to be moving forward, and how we want our clients and customers, or potential employers, to see us. And it's really important to be your own advocate, right? So many of my clients feel so uncomfortable. I don't want to brag about myself. You know, I feel so uncomfortable. I can't talk about this. I can't talk about that. The bottom line is that you are talking about the things that you have done because they are going to help somebody else make a decision to hire you, but also because they're going to serve this person, right? So if you are hiding that you have these amazing stats and these amazing metrics and you've done all these great things, somebody else who could potentially be helped by that won't know it unless you share it with them, right? And I love this quote because it's this idea of, you know, especially inside a company, right? People think, oh, I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm just going to do a good job and I'm going to get noticed. And that doesn't happen, right? Because your work is not picking itself off your desk and going into your boss's office and announcing how amazing you are. You have to do that. And so everything that we are putting in our bios is about us, but it's for them, right? It's for your audience. It has to be in service of them. And so if you are holding back on something you've done, then you are basically losing the opportunity to help another person. And one way to do this is releasing the generic, right? So when we talk about our bios, and I'm sure a lot of people here are very guilty of having these types of words in your bio, right? Veteran, seasoned, experienced. So here's my thoughts on these words. If you have served in the military, you can put veteran in your bio. Otherwise, it's just coded language for old. Seasoning is for chicken cutlets, right? I like to say that my son's been working for 3 months. He's now experienced, right? So these words are just filler and they're generic and they don't make you stand out. So we're trying to look for ways, again, to be more unique and truly showcase what makes us special. And this is really important because you've got about 7 seconds to grab someone's attention. If they're reading your bio on LinkedIn, you know, and it doesn't even matter if they're an employer, if they're a client, right? They're going to look at that title. They might click on your about statement and then they're gone. And if it opens up with, I have X years of experience, you've already lost them because you sound like everybody else. And if you have a website, the second most visited page is going to be your about page, because people want to know the person behind the company, right? It is great. They're coming to you for a service. They're coming to you for your products, but they have to decide where they want to spend their money. And especially nowadays, there is such a need for a company to express who's behind the curtain. And back to you, Shira, the values, right? What do we stand for? What are we trying to do with ourselves? Who are the people behind this? And, you know, everybody's really concerned about where they're putting their money now, and they want to give it to someone who they believe in, a company they believe in, a founder they believe in, a business they believe in. And you have to show your humanity. So your story, why you built this, those are the really important things. And again, those connection pieces are what they're looking for. All right, so now let's focus on the fun stuff, right? The extracurriculars. And, you know, we kind of talked about this, but we have to kind of weave everything together now. And as I said, you know, it is about you, but it's for them. So when we talk about, you know, your extracurriculars, you're weaving them into your story because it's a connection point, but it's showcasing to someone how you can help them, right? You have to showcase in your messaging that you understand the needs of your audience, that you can showcase again what you're good at, right? And most importantly, if you're a service provider, what it's going to be like to work with you, right? How can you ensure that the person on the page is the same as the person on the Zoom? And so we do this by creating what we call your brand positioning, your value proposition, your brand statement. There's a lot of different ways for it, but this is essentially answering those questions, right? Who is your audience, right? And what are they struggling with? Where do you play, or what is your category? Meaning, You know, are you serving a specific industry, a specific type of category? Do you have a product that fits into a certain umbrella, right? How are you different? I like to say, why are you effing awesome? And what will they get, right? This payoff or benefit. So I'm going to give you some examples of brand positioning statements. And these are typically either on your homepage or on your about page. And the idea is that somebody should see themselves in this and get a clear understanding of what you do and if you're for them. So Russo Graphics is a small graphic design firm that takes your creative needs and melds them into well-defined and well-designed logos and branding, brochures and documents, striving to exceed expectations at every turn.
Oh, baby.
And if you are a graphic designer and you're like, oh, I need a logo, I need brochures, and I really want them to, you know, impress me, right? Striving to exceed expectations. So she's talking to who she wants to be responsive to this message. The second person, I'm a certified coach, reinvention expert, speaker, and author. But what I really am is a professional permission granter. Through supportive coaching and facilitated culture change, I help people and organizations to overcome struggle, releasing the myth of perfection and learning how to do the work in order to get to the other side. Right? So this is like a nice reframe, like, yes, I'm these things, but here's what I really am. Right? And somebody who is looking for that, who is looking for permission, who needs coaching, might see themselves in this message. So I know you guys are going to get the recording, so I'm just going to kind of talk through this really quickly, but the goal is for you to try to build this on your own, right? When you answer those 4 questions on the previous slide, you are trying to come up with a concise 1 to 3 word statement that answers all these questions, right? So my example is I help individuals and institutions to develop their genuine personality brand. This allows you to own and embody your message, feel comfortable expressing it, and convey what makes you different from your competition so you can attract the right audience and repel the wrong one. And the order of these things doesn't really matter, but I've given you sort of a fill in the blank, and that's kind of how you can get started. So you're trying to say, you know, for whoever your target market is, who, what do they need, you provide what, right? That benefit, what makes you different, and then what do they get at the end? And the goal is to try to write this, and you can play around with the order and you can play around with the content, but you're trying to create something, even if it's internal only, that is something that you have that's going to answer these questions. Eventually, this can become your elevator pitch, right? So it could go on your website, but if somebody says, hey, what do you do? Oh, I help individuals and institutions to do this, this, and this. You know why? Because it allows you to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to give you a couple other bio makeovers. So here's why, again, we go from generic to not generic. Sally Shapiro is CEO of Shapiro Event Staffing. Shapiro Event Staffing specializes in high-end wait staff for events in New York City. We provide bartenders, waiters, kitchen assistants, and chefs. If a company is looking to outsource their staff, we can accommodate short-term and long-term requests. Fine, right? Totally fine. Totally forgettable. If you need an event company, fine. You'll never remember this person, and there's nothing distinct here, right? But are you ready to party? As a young girl, I never met a dance floor I didn't like. In fact, my yearbook named me most likely to crash a wedding. That's why I founded Shapiro Event Staffing. I'm always up for a good time, but more importantly, I know you can't have fun if your event run right. Whether it's your wedding day, anniversary, birthday, or corporate function, we provide the people and the peace of mind you need to ensure that the only thing people talk about the next day is how much fun they had, right? So she opens with the why, right? Why did she create this business? But here's the thing, right? So she's fun, but all the things that somebody cares about when they're hiring an event planner are here, right? You can't have fun if your event doesn't run right, right? I'm going to give you peace of mind. The only thing your guests are going to talk about is how much fun they had, right? So there's a way to do this with personality and still make it serious still convey that you take your job seriously, still convey that you know what you're doing, and she's memorable, right? So again, we're trying to just kind of be more distinct in what we do. So, right, she opened with that why, right? You know, I've named most likely to crash a wedding, right? So what are some other ways you could kind of open your bio? Before becoming a communication coach, I spent years on the sidelines being interrupted and talked over by the loudest voices in the room, right? That's a why, right? Why would someone become a coach? Oh, because I've been there, because I was used to this, right? In a past life, I was a project manager and communications consultant who witnessed what excess stress, bad communication, poor workflows, and unsupportive habits can do to us. And then I experienced it myself. Right? We love working with someone who has experienced what we have gone through, right? Especially if you are a service provider, if you're, you know, a coach, a project manager, you know, even a designer, a writer, whatever. If you have that relatable story, somebody is looking to see themselves in you. And the idea is like, oh, if they overcame it, they can help me. Right? So we can open with a why. We can get them engaged, right? Questions at the top of a bio are also really great, right? Raise your hand if you've ever been in a tension-filled relationship that simply wouldn't improve. Probably a lot of people, right? Think about your fingerprint for a moment. No one else on earth has the exact same constellation of loops, whorls, and arches. You are unique. Right. So neither one of these starts with I am so-and-so and I've been doing X, Y, and Z for however long, because no one cares. Right. This is a way to grab someone. Then you can tell your story. But if you know, and if you're at a networking event and you get up and they say, introduce yourself, and you say, raise your hand if you've ever been in a blah, blah, blah. Right. That's memorable. Right. And you're not like everybody else who just started with who they are in their business. Right? So a couple more examples of kind of infusing personality and telling those stories. To understand me is to understand my experience. I once weighed 327 pounds and somehow used my moxie, grit, and determination to talk my way into funding for a company that didn't even exist. Right? Super engaging, super interesting. What is this company? I need to know. I'm a pro at failure because failure is the first step to achievement. Sure, I'm also a certified coach, reinvention expert, speaker, and author with a multi-decade career, but what I really am is a professional permission granter. Resumes are my superpower. I didn't discover this unique yet practical skill until several years ago when two women in tech pointed out that I find mistakes in every resume I read. And then, of course, I always like to say a little bit of humor goes a long way, right? Now, I can't grant you 3 wishes, and I don't squeeze myself into a lamp or a dress or jeans or heels. Thank you, loungewear. But what I can do is help you release the myth of perfection and learn how to do the work in order to get to the other side. On our 3rd date, I asked my now wife how much she was contributing to her 401k and what else she was doing to save for retirement. So I guess you can say I've always been interested in personal finance and financial planning, right? Just nice little nuggets, right? Not super, super personal, but just something that's a little bit humorous, a little relatable, and a little fun. So when we think about writing our bio, right, I often get this question like, so what does it look like? How do I start? What are the components? So this is kind of the foundational piece, right? I like to say you open with that question or that opening statement, right? Or, you know, and then we get into that brand positioning, right? What are you doing? Who do you help? How do you serve? Then your background, your why, your expertise, your experience. This is where you can go to town with like your metrics and your stats and your brags. If you've won any awards, and this can be fun awards, like, you know, I was, you know, nominated best cubicle in my office or best dad or whatever, right? Again, more fun. And then if it makes sense, a call to action at the end. What do you want them to do if they're reading your bio, depending on where it is? Reach out for a call, get in touch, go to my website, let's have a conversation. How can I help you? Right? Give someone a reason to respond. So some parting words. This is not my creation, but I have co-opted it. Essentially, it's more of the sort of jargon bingo, right? These are the types of things that you see all too often in people's bios that don't mean anything. So the goal of this is to, if any of these are in your bio, you want to basically play bingo and get rid of them. Think of better ways to say any of this, take them out. They're not helpful. And again, I think sometimes we think that putting sort of industry jargon and terminology into our bios shows that we know the industry, when in fact, I believe it shows the opposite, because it becomes a crutch. If you can explain what you do in clear, simple language, as if you were talking to your grandchild, then you have won, right? If you can make somebody who doesn't know what you do understand what you do, then it's clear enough for everyone.
So Danielle, can I make a kind of an overarching, almost societal comment here?
Yeah, of course.
And this is coming from someone who I for many years, I was a generational diversity speaker. So that this is the lens that I'm using right now. And just to suggest that we've had a real generational shift in our communication.
Yes.
The younger, as the generations have moved on, we've become more and more informal, more and more personalized.
Yes.
We've moved away from sort of credibility oriented language, more toward humanized language. And so, so it used to be, although all those bingo words you were talking about was like, oh, I'm credible, oh, I'm authoritative, oh, I'm an expert, and oh, right, the 50-cent words, and now it's more, I'm real and relatable.
And I almost think like those words make you less credible now.
These days.
But I think it's a combination, right? I'm not saying don't showcase your expertise. Like we saw from Noelle's bio, when you get the recording and you go back, like it is jam-packed. She's got some real accomplishments. Like I am not saying that everything has to be fun and whimsical, but if it's so jam-packed with all of these things and so almost like a resume, it doesn't come across as genuine. So we're trying to find that balance between, yes, showcasing our expertise and being genuine, right? Even my bio, the one that I had in here, like that's my short, more fun bio. But when people need it, I've strategized and done work for clients such as I have those things. We want to have versions of ourselves and of these things that we can share with the world. But because so much on the internet now is about this human connection, it's so much more valuable to put that humanity into our message. And you can still showcase the 50-cent stuff, but just put it underneath the 5-cent stuff or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we're coming to the end. So I'm just going to give you a couple kind of takeaways that you can kind of implement. So I like to say, what can you do today? The goal is to make yourself irreplaceable, right? If you can put somebody else's name on your bio, it's not enough you, right? So if we go back to the Sally Shapiro example, any person could take out Sally Shapiro and put their own event company, and it doesn't change it, right? But that secondary bio where she talks about being on the dance floor and all of that, that's more personal. So we're trying to find a way that if somebody reads our bio, they're like, oh my God, that is completely Shira. Right? That's what we're trying to get at. Right. So the next thing is, for tomorrow, I like to say today, tomorrow, and next week, it's really just step 1, step 2, step 3. Where is your line? Right? In other words, personality brand is what are you comfortable sharing? And what are you not comfortable sharing? You don't have to share everything. You don't have to talk about your family if you don't want to. There could be plenty of things that are off limits. What's on the table? What's the thing that you want to talk about? What's the thing you want people to know about? And what's the thing that's going to make you memorable? And the last thing, and I love this, is because a lot of people are like, I don't know what I'm good at, or I don't know how to describe myself. Go ask 5 people in your life for 3 words that come to mind when they think of you, and try to get people from different facets of your life. So friends, family, former coworkers, an employee, a boss, etc. I guarantee you multiple people will come back with either the same word or similar words. And chances are that word or words is something that you do really well that you take for granted. And this is something that's valuable to other people. So you might get that so many people come back and say, oh, you're so thoughtful. And you're like, what am I supposed to do with that thoughtful? You know what? The right client is going to be like, oh, this person's a really good listener. I need someone who's going to listen to what I have to say. That's where the thoughtful piece comes in. So we downplay the things that we do well, but those are the things that other people value. So lastly, I have this sort of mini challenge called 10 days to a better bio. It is pay what you wish, meaning it can be completely free for you. You can scan the QR code with your phone and it will take you there. But basically when you sign up every day, I send you one tip in your inbox on how to make your bio a little bit better. It's very small and very bite-sized and very easy. And it's just a nice way to kind of make some small changes, and it's on your own time, and it's available through the end of February. So you can sign up whenever you'd like. And lastly, if you want to connect with me, you can go to my website, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an email. And if you're on Instagram, feel free to follow me on Instagram.
Thank you,
that is-
Danielle.
Yeah.
Great. So you want to take questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring on the questions. Okay. Okay.
You
Chris-
mentioned including awards.
yes.
And I won something in high school that I had on my resume for a while, but it fell like a lead balloon. I was the Betty Crocker Future Homemaker of America.
I love that. Oh my God,
And I'm
Patricia,
thinking
you
now
too?
it might actually be kind of cool because
I mean, it's kind of a retro throwback, but I think if you own the fact that it is very dated, Teresa, I think it's funny. Like, I kind of love that. And, you can explain to people, what does that mean? Right? Like, it would be even funnier if you're like, I was the homemaker of America and I actually burn everything in my kitchen, or, right? Like, is there like a dichotomy to actually how you cook or keep your house now?
well, I became a pescatarian. I've been published in a vegetarian cookbook.
So it started you on your journey.
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, it's just fun things. But the other thing I wanted to say is I sometimes struggle with small talk. So I always think of like 3 or 4 things that I call the personal but not private.
Yes, correct.
I'm a DC native. I'm very public about that. Just what, kind of what are the things that I can say to people that kind of are might be a conversation starter.
Right. That's exactly what we're talking about. I love the Betty Crocker thing, though. I think you should put that back.
I have other things that are kind of a little cooler too. The
Okay,
other
fine.
thing I like, and I'm kind of very proud of this, but I think it says a lot about who I am, is I'm very involved with a volunteer organization. It's do a lot of work with them, and that's something I'm very passionate about. And it's a very it's not for any particular cause. It's nothing political, religious. So I can be very public about it.
Great. Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Anyone else have questions?
I'm always curious because I talk a lot about how, I'm really hyper focused on serving women and minorities in business.
Mhm.
In my brain, it's like, okay, I want to use my passion and talent to serve people who maybe don't have that capital, right?
Mhm.
Who don't have the access to funding that, maybe our male counterparts would have. But when I try to express that, I keep it pretty short. Oh, I support women and minorities. But like, how do I tell my story more without also sounding like a man hater? Because it's not that. It's not that, but yeah.
I would never presume that you hate men just because you support women and,
Yeah.
people of color. I have a friend who she says she does one pro bono project every quarter for an underrepresented business or an underrepresented population. So you could potentially position it that way, or you could just say you're passionate about lifting up voices that don't get heard very often.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't worry about alienating a certain population when you're trying to amplify another one anyway.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Anyone else? Tom, you're raising your hand? Yes. You got to take yourself off mute.
Sorry, I thought you.
There you go.
Excuse me. I guess I wonder. You said first thing. For instance, I love hiking. But you said, "Gee, that's just too generic." If I look at some of the things that really brand me today, if you will, I was given 8 months to live in 2015.
Oh my God.
And so my life has changed dramatically. The things that I might be passionate about or might want to do, I can't do. And then that's not a problem. I've reinvented it. Hiking is one of the things I can do. Is it all right to talk about the fact that I've had cancer and I'm 8 years on chemo, or is, my wife calls me the Energizer Bunny?
I mean, I think that's up to you if you want to share that with people. I think that's amazing. I think it's, you've overcome this unbelievable obstacle, right? You defied the odds. And I just want to say, it's not that I think hiking is boring. I'm encouraging you to, like, what kind of hiking do you do? Like, where do you like to hike? What type of hiking do you like to do? It's more about getting more specific to it than getting rid of it. Right. So are you a trail hiker? Do you hike at the beach? Do you have to research where you're going to go? That kind of thing.
What about that thing like the Energizer Bunny? Is that something worth building on?
I mean, if you think so, I probably wouldn't put Energizer in your brand just because it is another brand.
Yes,
but
that's
I think
what
you could say, like, your wife says that you're like a battery powered bunny or something like this. Maybe there's a way to kind of allude to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think your story makes you super impressive, but you have to be comfortable sharing your medical history with people. And if you are, then I think you should be proud that you're an 8+ year cancer survivor and who knows how else, defying all the odds.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Nope. Happy to give everyone their Thursday night back. Have some dinner.
All right. Well, thank you, Danielle. Appreciate your wisdom and clever quippiness and helping us to infuse some personality into our branding. This has been fantastic. We appreciate you very much. And make sure to connect with Danielle. And Danielle, would you go ahead and put the slide back up around how to connect you?
Yes. Yes, everyone can see that. Okay, there you go.
Great. Yeah. Oh, and we just had a chat from Anne. She said, I was attracted to this topic because of my issue to attract the right customer who would pay, not because of my personality. Can you say anything about that? And I know, Anne, you've had some issues with video with your audio on this call. So I'm guessing that's probably why you chatted. So you may not be able to connect to have a conversation with Anne. So can you?
That's okay. I mean, all of this is about connecting so they give us money, right? Like that's what this is all about, right? So when you're branding yourself, it's because you're building that trust with your audience so that they will be a customer. So all of this is about building that trusted brand so that somebody does want to work with you or buy a product that you're selling or buy a service that you have.
So I know in Anne's case, she sells to an international audience and she's selling to sometimes I think it's government oriented entities. She's had it's a very particular kind of government. There's it's a very complex kind of a thing, right?
Okay.
And I don't know to what extent.
But I would imagine, right? So you're selling, which is sales. Sales is about relationships. So how are you establishing those relationships, right? This is a way to sort of build a little bit of the relationship in content by showing a little bit of who you are so that when you get on the phone with these entities and who you're talking to, there is potentially the chance to build that rapport, right? Because that's what's going to make them I would assume, buy from you repeatedly more
Yeah,
often.
so if I
Obviously, you
can-
have to deliver the product.
So if I can maybe clarify something about today's presentation. So today Danielle was trying to help everyone here to build rapport, right? That relationship with a client. This wasn't really a presentation about selling as in closing the deal. Okay, that's a different kind of conversation. This is just more of the opener. When someone reads about you, when they hear you for the first time, when you're networking with people, when you're introducing yourself, what can you do to add in some of your personality to build that warmth and to build that relationship, right? There is the rest of the sales process. That's a very different topic, right? Around how to get people to pay and who and how target audiences and that kind of thing. So that's a little different than what we were talking about today. So hopefully that helps to shine a light on, focusing. Okay.
My one friend who runs an agency out of New Jersey says it's prepping the battlefield. So he's in the military and he talks a lot about positioning and prepping the battlefield. You want to put this stuff out and show your personal brand so that you can kind of prep them before you even get on that sales call and that conversation, so that you can position yourself and your personal brand and your business a certain way in that person's mind.
Exactly.
That's a
All right.
great way to put it.
Terrific. Well, we'll just go ahead and wrap up a little bit early tonight. Thank you again, Danielle, for your wisdom here. Thanks everyone for your participation. We look forward to seeing you again. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and pull up our BoomerWorks webpage for those of you who are new to our organization. We do offer free services to the 50+ community, although we are certainly inclusive of all ages in terms of self-employment. And here we are, BoomerWorks.org, and there are a couple different tabs I'll alert you to. First is our meetups tab. So you'd go to upcoming events, which here you can see it is tonight's event. And down here we have several more workshops that we've already pre-booked through July. Okay, we'll keep adding to this list. And then also please avail yourself of our training center. And here are a whole bunch of topics you can click on, and you'll see the videos. I just want to show this a second time for those of you who came a little late to the call. Okay, so we've recorded almost all of our presentations for your viewing pleasure. All right, so feel free to continue to connect with us, and if you haven't already done so, I know that some of you heard about us through Meetup. But if you go back to the BoomerWorks.org site, in the upper right-hand corner, you can hit the join button, join our community. Just fill out a little form, little contact form. Promise you will not spam you. We'll just send you a promotional email a couple times before the next event. All right. So wish everybody a blessed evening. Thanks for coming, and we'll hopefully see you again.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
That was great. Thank you.